if you're stressed, just tell it to either to your colleague or to your team lead, telling them you're stressed. It's not you shouldn't be ashamed to be stressed, because everyone, I think you and me, we share the same idea of stress. That's maybe a negative thing, which actually it is to experience, but it's definitely not a negative thing to talk about.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me in this interview today. I'm Eva. I work as a psychologist at OpenUp. OpenUp is a company that deals with mental health. So we actually want to make mental health accessible to everyone. And that's also why we collaborate with Picnic, so that all Picnic employees have access to OpenUp and to the services. And we're here today to talk a bit more about mental health. But so much about me. Do you mind introducing yourself before we start as well?
Oh, not of course. My name is Bart. I'm working in the HR team within distribution. So I'm in the people team within the distribution. I'm partially responsible for as a information source for all the hub leads if they have some certain cases about absenteeism and also about contracting. I'm doing that for about half a year now in my current role, and about 2 years in total in the people team. And I've been in the company for the last 6 years. So somewhere 2016 I joined Picnic as a side job, being a runner, but it escalated real quick, as you can see.
Yeah, that's quite a while already then.
Yeah, certainly it is.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you. So we wanted to talk about mental health, but a bit more specifically about stress today. So how are you doing right now?
Right now I'm doing very good, actually. I'm not stressed at all, fortunately, of course. I think everything in my private circumstances, everything's fine, also work-related. I'm having not so many troubles, so that's very good, actually. Yeah, everything's calm.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Can you maybe remember times where it has been more stressful?
If I'm stressed, for example, I don't have a certain topic right now that comes to my mind. But for example, when I'm much more stressed, then I'm losing the personal side when it comes to work. I'm losing the personal side from someone else, and I'm much more task focused. And if it's my private life, for example, towards my girlfriend, I'm faster irritated, replying maybe a little bit more grumpy, or annoyed by smaller things that usually are not the things that I'm grumpy about whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you deal with that then when you notice yourself getting more agitated or being affected by the stress?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm asking that to myself sometimes as well. If there's a solution or easier solution, if it's not a too stressed situation, just more busy, like too busy, and it starts with stress, then I'm trying to put everything into perspective, make a planning for myself, and if I have an overview of what needs to be done, then I'm also easier to get something done and to put the stress level down. If that's not possible, I think it's always good, and that's more like I think it's always good, to talk about the stress that you're having or experiencing, even though I find it very difficult to talk about the stress or about any personal circumstances when it comes to myself, to my own personal life. I don't like to talk about that topic in general, which I should do more often.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing it now, so...
Yeah, that's already a step out of my comfort zone, but I think it's very helpful for myself as well as for others, that maybe this is an inspiration just to talk about and get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's quite a brave thing to do then, if you say it's usually quite difficult for you.
Exactly, yeah.
And now, earlier you said when it comes to stress, you kind of take a step back, maybe get a grasp on things, organize them, structure them, but then that also talking about it may be beneficial.
Yeah.
So is that something you've experienced before, that talking was helpful?
Yeah, I think I have something that comes to my mind about talking, that I wouldn't say that I'm going to like too much into details about those things, but I've had some experience during my youth that were quite impactful back in the day, and I felt like I was the only person to deal with this problem. No one shouldn't know about it. But at some point, my parents found out that I was dealing with something. And so instead of talking face to face to me, because I found that very difficult, they just wrote me a letter and put it on my bedroom when I was, I think, 13 or 14. So it wasn't 2 or 3 years ago. It was quite a while ago. They just wrote a letter to me and stating that if there's anything they want to talk about, or if I wanted to talk about with them, then they were there, and that made it much more convenient, because it's difficult to talk about certain topics, especially when you're during your puberty. And then I just wrote them back. Yeah, and so it started, and they intended to talk with a psychologist, which after all I'd done for about I think 2 years. And yeah, well, it made a solution for my problems back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a very nice gesture also, to kind of tell you the door is open, and it gave you the possibility to answer in your own way, or in a more comfortable way than just talking about what was going on.
Exactly, yeah. I found it very nice that my parents did it like that. And yeah, I would recommend also, if there's any things that you are not feeling to talk about, maybe this is also a solution, either intended by yourself or towards someone else.
Yeah. And you said now later you noticed talking about it was very helpful, about your problems or what was going on, and you also wrote your parents back. So how was it to write about it or write things down that were difficult?
I think it's when you have a conversation, and especially if it's a difficult conversation, which you actually don't want, but after all it might be beneficial for yourself. It's sometimes difficult to find the right words that you're looking for. And if you write something, then you can just write it down, rephrase it, think about it, and yeah, overthink about it. And I think that's, for me, in a personal way, it's way better. As I said, this is very out of my comfort zone, so I'm thinking what I should say and what I shouldn't say. Yeah, so therefore, I think a letter for me is it's the easiest and the most efficient to do.
Yeah. And what did you learn from that? It sounds like also quite an impactful experience that you kept to yourself for quite a while. Then you wrote about it, you started talking to someone. So when we started talking about stress, what were you able to take away from this?
Just to share the negative thoughts and the thoughts that you had, talk about it. Yeah, opening your eyes by letting someone think along with you, to give them suggestions that you may have never thought about before. Referring to the psychologist who gave me some suggestions how you can cope with ideas or thoughts. And that gave me new insights, and then yeah, with those insights I managed to get my overthinking about the topic to get rid of it.
Yeah, so not only sharing, but also therefore opening yourself to other people's advices, maybe support as well.
And if you talked once to someone, it's easier to do it the second time to maybe someone in your personal life, because if you're talking with a psychologist or maybe a doctor, whoever you're sharing the idea with, the topic with, then you can easier share it with your friend or your family or your relative or whoever you would like to share this with.
So then it's easier to make a next step, or...
Definitely, yeah.
Cool. And now when you deal with stress or other difficult situation nowadays, what is helpful for you? What you've maybe also learned from past experiences, and what you're applying now that you notice it helps to deal with stress or difficulties?
I would say just talk about it. Just if you're stressed, just tell it to either to your colleague or to your team lead. telling them you're stressed. It's not a you shouldn't be ashamed to be stressed, because everyone, I think you and me, we share the same idea of stress. That's maybe a negative thing, which actually it is to experience, but it's definitely not a negative thing to talk about. And if you share your stress or your ideas about it, then you can also come up with a easier solution. Maybe they can take away some work. Maybe they can divide it amongst others. But if you stick with your stress yourself and you keep on going, yeah, eventually that will become too much, and then you will maybe fall out and get sick, maybe for a longer period of time, and that's something, the last thing you would like to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying it helps to get kind of the emotional support, like sharing the load of being stressed, but also to actually find practical solutions.
Yeah.
Like when you don't share, that's more difficult to actually find
Yeah.
the organizational side. You mentioned in the beginning that you also like to organize, get things in order, get a grasp on what's going on, and that sharing it is also helpful for that.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experiences.
You're welcome.
And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share about, any tip you'd like to give, or something you'd like to add to what we talked about?
I think that I'm going to stay with the things that I mentioned about talking. I think that's the key number one. Just talk about it when you have some issues like this. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a really nice way to round it off. So thank you for joining today.
Thank you very much.